call the February 4th Property Committee meeting at this time. First order of business is citizens communications. And I think we have one citizen that has asked to speak. David
Bailey, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening, and thank you. I'll be brief. I am David Veal. I live in Franklin, here in Williamson County, and I'm here to briefly address Resolution 226.7 and 8 regarding the issuance of bonds for the potential purchase of a new courthouse property. I am a circuit court judge here in Williamson County, and I can tell you that the facilities that we currently have are lacking. To call them lacking would be an understatement. When that building was built in between 2002 and 2004, our population has, I believe, at least doubled. And the facilities were not adequate when it was built. When it was completed in 2004, it was too small for the justice that we need to administer every day. We have clerks in the hallways. The judges, the circuit court judges are constantly nearly arm wrestling over courtrooms. We do not have adequate courtrooms. We only have 2 courtrooms where we can hold jury trials for criminal matters, and we may be able to use the historic courthouse if appropriate, but there's not a holding cell, so we cannot have a trial there if someone's in custody. But in any event, we have fewer jury trial courtrooms than we have judges, and at some point they're going to have to add more judges. So I know there's some thought about rehabbing the current facility in conjunction with the historic courthouse. My concern with that is you can put a Band-Aid on a wound and it will stop the bleeding for a period of time, and then you can deal with it again in 5 or 10 or 15 years. Or you can not only triage, but treat the wound and heal it. And I think a new courthouse would, if we can design a courthouse for the future, we won't be back here in 10 or 15 or 20 years in the same position that we're in today. So with that, I'd be glad to entertain any questions that you might have. And thank you for your service and for your stewardship. I'm a taxpayer, so I appreciate you looking at everything. It takes me a year to buy a truck. I understand this is a fast process on this particular property, but they're not building any more property. If it's gone, it's gone. And this is a unicorn property in terms of the footprint, the location to downtown, the availability for parking, and to build a courthouse that's functional for everything that we need to do. It is a unicorn. And if we don't jump on it, we may not have a chance on another one. So thank you.
Okay, the next order of business is approval of the minutes for December 10th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, is there any additions or corrections at this time? If not, all those signify by saying aye. Aye. Show it unanimous. Okay, our first resolution is resolution number 2. Oh, excuse me. I guess we need to decide. Do we want to take the resolutions or do we want to do Jesse's presentation first? I mean, we got a time frame today. Should we take Jesse's presentation first and ask commissioners to listen to the presentation and maybe save more questions for Monday night's commission meeting and us wait, which is y'all's?
So my concern, since we've got a time issue, is I'd rather personally deal with the resolution so we make sure we get those done.
Okay.
And then all the remaining time we have, then we can focus.
Okay.
There's 2 people in the audience.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure before since we have Jesse here. Okay, resolution number 226.7. An initial resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $17,850,000 of general obligation bonds of Williamson County, Tennessee. Do we have someone? Oh, motion. Move. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have someone that would like to speak to this?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's why I'm here.
Okay.
You want me to come up front?
Yes, please.
Sit here by the commissioner someplace. So this resolution is strictly in the intent to fund. We have to go through a process of advertising to do any bond issuance. The next resolution, but this one is just the initial resolution to put it in the paper and do the things we have to do in order to borrow money. The next, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and explain it. The next resolution, which is a little deeper in depth into the land that we've got there, we've asked the consultant we're using, oversight with Jim Cross. He's here to address any of your individual questions you may have about the existing facility we've got or the future site that we've got. He can get down to that, and we've got several of the legal profession judges that are here to answer any specific questions, as opposed to all of this coming to a head on Monday night. But the long and short of it is as I told the Budget Committee and Law Enforcement the other night, Law Enforcement, it did not pass. The budget side, it did pass. This is an opportunity that the owner of the property has come forth to the county, approximately 8 acres. 5.2. Nearly 5.5 acres, to relocate our courthouse that's on the square and across from Puckett's to that site. We don't have a detailed drawing of that, but we know that it will fit on there. It's about 125,000 square feet. And if you all agree that you want to inventory this land at some future date, then that's what this is doing. There is no money in here for the courthouse. No money has been allocated for the courthouse. No money is built into the bond for this. There were a couple of people, the law enforcement said they're in favor of the courthouse. They just don't want to borrow the money to do it. And the 17.5 number is the number, 17.8, whatever it says there, Brian. The 17.8 number is the cost of the land and some of the things that we've done. We'll have to do at bond closings.
Is there any questions or discussion by members of the committee?
I think we just had an appraisal shared with us as well that I think appraised it.
If I could have Jim, do you mind letting Jim address it? Jim will need to go to the podium, but he does. It's a couple of years old by the owner. We didn't want to spend all that money on it because the value of it is around 22 million. Jim, I'll let you talk about it.
It's just under 22 million. I think it's 21.7, something like that.
But we know we'll have to do an up-to-date appraisal, but it's a couple of years old, but I don't think that piece of property is going to go down in value.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I guess is the 17,850 number.
That's the number. I'll let Jim tell you all about
Has
it.
that been the discussed number with the owner at this point?
That's the number that he gave us, that he's asking for the property.
Even with the appraisal coming in higher?
Yes. And that he furnished us with that appraisal. We've not done our own appraisal yet.
Gotcha.
So this has happened rather quickly. I don't know if anybody really disputes that we need more room. I personally work in the courthouse every day. I could give my own testimony as to why we need additional room, additional spaces, additional courtrooms. I routinely have criminal trials bumped because we don't have enough space to try these criminal trials. So I'm all for it. I guess my question is, we seem to do a hard right from the initial Triple J plan to add on to the courthouse, and now we've taken a detour and we're like, we're gonna build elsewhere. So what precipitated us going from let's follow the plan to remodel, reconstruct, build, to now scrap that, let's move elsewhere?
I asked for the architect who did the 2019 master plan to be here tonight. He couldn't be here. He will be at the county commission meeting on Monday night, and I think he can give a little more explanation to that. But I believe from 2019 till now, based on feedback we're getting from the judges, is that there's going to be a need for more judges, and the expansion of the existing courthouse and the renovation of that, and it would also include renovation of the historic courthouse, really would not meet the needs for what they need. It would be just putting a Band-Aid basically on that. And There was no plan in the 2019 master plan for new parking anywhere. There's really, you got the parking garage that's beside it, and that's really about it. Without adding another garage somewhere in downtown, there's no other place for more parking.
So the initial conception, it didn't contemplate secure parking or how to make the parking more secure, not just for the judges, but, I mean, there are other staff members that need secure parking.
So if you look at the master plan from 2019, if you're facing the courthouse from 4th Avenue, there's a small parking lot to the right-hand side behind the old Dan German Hospital. There was an expansion building that would go there. So there would be, underneath that, there would be secured parking for the judges. And then there would be 2 more floors on top of that for a 3-story, total of 3 stories right there. That takes up the majority of that parking lot that's there now. And the Sally Port was being reworked to have a more secure way for the Sally Port to function.
Okay.
And so we probably had a net loss of parking, if not just a zero gain of parking with covering that parking lot with a building, but we had secure parking underneath for only judges.
And then one last question, if I may. If we take out a bond and purchase this property and it sits there 5, 6 years before we build, what are we paying on that property as far as property taxes, bond interest? Like, anybody have a number on, it's not just the sale price, it's the cost of holding it as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to answer that. I don't think the county pays property taxes, but no.
Well, that's nice.
You don't, but no, we don't pay.
All right. But there'd still be holding costs on the bond interest.
I would assume so.
Jim, this is going to be an opinion question, because I know we don't have like architectural drawings on this piece yet. But in reading and hearing about some of the BOMA discussions about height restrictions on some of the development that's happening in that area because of line of sight with the Carter House and all that, does that footprint on that property and what can be built there, can we avoid having to go up enough without having a conflict with BOMA over a height?
So I've talked with a few people at the city to understand exactly what that looks like. Their restriction is they don't really want 3 stories right up on Columbia Avenue. So what they can't tell me is how many feet behind Columbia Avenue could you go 3 stories, but it's a certain feet back from Columbia, you could go higher there if you needed to. So a study would have to be done. We could still fit the required square footage on there if it were to be 2-story. The only thing I would want to take a look at is, are we eating up land with a 2-story building when we could go higher in some places that would leave you more room for expansion in the years, coming up?
Right.
Or would you have to do more structured parking or less structured parking, those sorts of studies? But the site will accommodate it, and we can go 3 stories, but just not right up on Columbia Avenue.
Yeah, so this is not only my district, it's my neighborhood. I've been hearing from a lot of my neighbors and constituents a myriad of ideas, but what they all center around is they wish we would slow down a bit, pump the brakes. They've asked me if we can defer this from next Monday's meeting. They've put together a survey that's supposed to go out to all the downtown residents and business owners. I think that's supposed to go out tomorrow. They'd like to at least get that feedback, as well as have some more conversations. And when I say they, it's the Downtown Neighborhood Association, Downtown Business Members Association. They feel like this has been sprung upon them. They're not necessarily saying they're against it. They just want to know more about it. Obviously, they care deeply. This is, as Judge Ville pointed out, a seminal property, and they care deeply about what goes there or doesn't go there, and they just want to be part of the conversation.
If we defer, and it might be a question for you, for a month, would that have any impact on us being able to go forward with this?
The effective date of the contract is December 7th, 8th, 9th, somewhere in that range, and there was a 120-day due diligence period. So whoever can do the math, it takes us out to, I think, what, April maybe? And then there's a 30 or 60-day close after that 120-day due diligence period.
So if we defer to March, we'd be okay.
We'd be okay.
We'd be
Under
okay.
that theory.
Remember, we don't meet in April.
I know,
So
Because we meet March 9th.
March 9th.
So that would be right around the 90-day mark.
And that's what your constituents are asking for, deferment for about a month? Yes.
Can I ask a question, Chairman?
Yes.
At what point do you do your appraisal?
I don't know. That's kind of outside our scope to do that, whenever the county would decide to do the appraisal.
So normally we would do it during that process to see what he's done about the actual appraisal of the land. As Jim's indicated, his is a couple of years old. Given what's happening down on Columbia Avenue, I don't think the price of the appraisal will be any less than what it is. But we will do that if you want to do it. It's just a matter of having Kevin pick up the phone, and we'll find a couple of people and get it. If you want to spend that money ahead of time, we can.
Or what does that cost?
$5,000, $10,000. I mean, it's not a great deal of money, but if no need to spend it if you already got one. But eventually we've got to have one. We're close.
Yeah. In my mind, it's helpful to have current.
If that's what you want, we'll get one ordered.
Mary?
Yeah, that was my question. Have we actually received any comp data though for any recent purchases in that area? Because I'm hearing from the comp data that that's 18 million is much more expensive than what we could get. And I guess my second question is, who actually negotiates the price that we are gonna pay? Like,
So I'll let Jim answer the first with the comps. I'm not sure what the old Handy Hardware, what that land sold for.
The only comps that are there are the appraisal that we've been given to see those comps. And some of the property where the margin district's going, I think it's sold for somewhere like $1,000 a square foot or something like that. But as far as recent comps go, those are all from 2024.
yeah, I think it would be good to see some, just the most recent comps we have with that land that was just, I can't believe I remember if it's being called. But I haven't seen any, but I've had people tell me that we need to get those comps.
We haven't, the county's not asked for a new appraisal yet, so the only way you get comps is to get a new appraisal.
I think that'd be important to do.
Well, I shouldn't say that's the only way you could get comps, but it would be outside of our expertise to get that. I could probably find somebody that could do that, but the real way to do that's with an appraisal.
We will, if you all want an appraisal before we move on, we'll certainly do it.
Is it realistic to have one done before the March meeting?
Kevin, 30 days.
I would think so. We were able to get the environmental phase one done very quickly as well, so people know the urgency that, we have to have a turnaround to make this, to give you all information to make decisions. So I will get on it first thing in the morning, and I'm sure I can line something up within a couple weeks. That's as much as I could promise at this point.
I think eventually if we are going to purchase the property, we have to have it done anyway. So it could potentially be a expense that doesn't bear out if we don't purchase, but I think it's an expense we need in order to determine if we are purchasing the property for a price that makes sense.
We'll order it tomorrow. What was the second part of your question, Commissioner?
Who negotiates the actual
He
real
gave
estate
us a
transaction?
fixed price, what he would sell it for,
Okay.
based off the comps that he had.
And I guess probably the last question I have is, I know we did do the Triple J, and I think to Commissioner Mason's point, sounds like there's some limitations with that original design, but we did spend a lot of money on getting that design done. Is there any interest in going back and looking at design and kind of see if we can address some of the issues that Judge Veal brought up with that design, because that was an expense that taxpayers already paid for. And now we're kind of shifting. I hate to just throw out what looked like it was a good design at the time, if it's possible. And I have heard that there are potentials to have new parking in downtown Franklin. The Generations Church has been mentioned as another feasible area to do underground parking. And then I also have heard that the city of Franklin themselves has concerns because that is a potential revenue base for them. And so I just want to make sure that we're looking at this holistically with all the different stakeholders that are going to be a part of this, the residents, the city of Boma, and then obviously our judges have a big say in this too.
So if I could follow up with that, first of all, the reason it's here, this is what the judges wanted. We've been having meetings with several of the all of the judges, the courthouse people, including the sheriff, since October and November. We have looked at some other sites. This is the site that they preferred, and I said, if we get the site that you prefer, that'll require Jim to talk to the owner. The owner's come back and said yes, he would sell it for this price. So I've addressed that. What is current parking cost, Jim, per spot? There's a number we use.
Structured parking?
Yes.
Today, they're running between $35,000 and $40,000 a space above grade, not below grade. Below grade's kind of just depends on which, if you're in rock or not in rock or whatever. So 35 to 40 on above grade structured parking is what it's running.
I think he had a question.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Jim, so remind me, I'm sure there's some others, but from my understanding on the Triple J project, there wasn't a whole lot at the current courthouse that was incorporated in the Triple J project. But maybe.
What do you mean by that? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Jail, the juvenile detention facility, the juvenile judges, the sheriff's office, right? They're all out there off of Century Court. What in the Triple J project was also incorporated in that was going to affect the courthouse downtown?
You're talking about like in the current funding or nothing?
In the current plan?
Nothing.
Okay. So then I guess I'll come back to the question then. If, yes, we have the Triple J project, but I think this property is looking to address the current courthouse and what's down there. What overlap between the two of them is there?
I'm not trying to be hard-headed, but I'm not sure how to answer. I'm not sure what your overlap in cost or overlap in design or.
This is a caveat to Commissioner Mason's comment about the current Triple J project, right? And that now we're considering doing something with the current courthouse downtown. And there was a comment that insinuated that we had portions of the Triple J project that was already committed to some aspect of the courthouse downtown, but I cannot recall any of those specifics.
So I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I think what she meant to say is that was part of that 2019 master plan.
Okay.
That portion of the master plan is not currently being implemented, but it was part of the 2019 master plan.
Okay.
As well as the jail and the juvenile justice and the
But
ALC.
the current funded Triple J project doesn't have any funding in there that affects the courthouse.
It does not, right.
Mr. Chairman, if I could follow up on that, Matt. When we started this process of the JJJ, we did have COVID interrupt us for a couple of years. So we basically went back and said, let's in those early days, let's do a needs assessment of not only the jail, the sheriff, and Judge Guffey's area, the juvenile area, and the judge's area. What would that look like? Well, that interruption delayed us. The cost was rising. You all have dealt with that, how much value has gone up. Jim and his firm have done some evaluations, cost reductions, and things like that. But we still did the judges what it was for 2018 or 19, whatever that period of time we did it. What are the needs? The needs were done, and what did the future look like? Well, that's been 8 solid years. I'm not saying we couldn't renovate that area downtown, because if you'll remember also back then, the retail side wanted to leave the courthouse down there because they like that shopping side. Well, a lot of things have changed in the 6 or 8 years, but one we're hearing from the judges, what sparked this whole thing again, other than we said when we got through with jail and all of those things, we'd come back around to you. And they were gracious to let us do that, but they do have needs. Those needs now are converted over to about 125,000. If y'all feel like we ought to go somewhere else, that's fine with me. This isn't a project I'm trying to fall on the sword for. It is an area that has been identified that meets the needs of the judges, meets the needs of the future growth for some 20 to 25 years, and it's not cheap. Neither is renovating the old historical courtroom. There's a lot of challenges in that building that present issues for us. But the biggest issue that the judges keep coming to us is this thing that the commissioner brought up. It's about the safety and the security, not only of our judges, but our employees and the people that come there. It is very difficult to provide those kind of securities that we need. In fact, Kevin has just got through getting some prices on putting a fence down there. The first run of that, the historical commission didn't like that fence. So now we have to go back and we'll have to do a different type of fence that meets the standards that they're requiring for downtown. That's not all bad, that's not all good, but it does require time and money. And I think the judges are asking, and they have the right to, and our legal side of the community to give them a safe place to work. That's where we're at. And we weren't trying to do a hard right, Commissioner. We weren't trying to railroad this through. These are the things that just have happened over the last 60 and 90 days. At the same time, we tried to get ahead of the curve so other people wouldn't drive the price up. I know that may come as no news, but as soon as the government looks at something, the price goes up because somebody else wants to buy it. But we will do I'll ask Kevin to do that for tomorrow. If y'all want to delay it, that's fine. I just don't know what the owner, we do have a time frame in which we have to work with. But we'll do everything we can to get an appraisal in 30 days.
Motion to defer.
Yeah, I'll second that. I'd say contingent upon a due diligence, appraisal being completed.
We have a motion to defer. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to defer signify by saying aye. Aye. Show it unanimous.
You need a date on that? Deshaun?
Oh,
To
to
March.
March,
Well,
March
to our,
9th,
to our March county commission
March
meeting.
9th County Commission.
And property.
and property.
Property.
If you come to our pre-March commission
You wanna
meeting,
have
property
another
meeting.
Property meeting at the end of the month?
Yes,
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
yes.
Don't we have a regular March meeting?
We should
Yeah,
have
we
a
do.
regular
I
one.
think it's
Property
fourth.
meeting will be after the county commission, that's why I wanna have it before.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The way
Okay.
it falls on the calendar?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Gotcha.
okay, yes. So the next resolution,
So,
oh,
2680, are you gonna combine those two to defer?
yes, we are.
That would
Both-
make sense.
Both to defer, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Resolution 22612, resolution declaring certain Williamson County-owned property and equipment surplus property and authorizing the sale of the property and equipment at auction with attachment. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Is this,
This Leslie Mitchell.
okay. Are there any questions? I know there's a list. I saw it earlier today.
Yes, there's 3 pages of items that will be in the auction.
I mean, we routinely do this.
Yes, sir.
Are there any questions on this?
No.
If there's no questions or comments, all those in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Show it unanimous.
Yes, sir.
Resolution 22613, resolution to surplus and approve the conveyance of various law enforcement related equipment to Hickman County, Tennessee, and authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute all documents to complete the conveyance.
Motion.
Motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, is there any discussion on this resolution?
No.
No?
Just what it exactly, you know, what the
It
property
looked
is?
like when I looked at it earlier, it
It
looked like it was sheriff's stuff. It's sheriff's stuff.
It's the second whereas, Commissioner Williams.
Okay, never mind.
It's sheriff's stuff, yeah. Any other questions?
It's sheriff stuff.
It's sheriff's stuff. I looked at it earlier today. Yeah. It's ballistic plates and things like that, I think. If there's no other questions or comments on this, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Show it unanimous. I don't think there's any opposed. Okay, Resolution 2-2614, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a lease agreement with BOP, is that right? BOP? Boot Vets on behalf of the Williamson County Animal Center. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Okay.
And some of you, I didn't know where to put the pages, so I left a kind of a synopsis for y'all. So if you didn't get one, they're laying down there. But the bottom line here is that we know that there is a need in our community for affordable vet care. We frequently are asked to take owner surrenders due to lack of funding for specific vet needs. And we have referrals from vet clinics for people, you know, when they go and maybe their dog needs an amputation and they can't afford the amputation, so the clinics refer them to us. And long story short, we've had a couple of very small grants to be able to provide a little bit of that access to care over the past couple of years. And through the course of those grants, we have been able to provide that. But we're very fortunate because, I don't know, those of you who know Dr. Preston, she's been a vet in our community for a very long time. And through our relationship, we discussed this need and what we were seeing, and she had the idea of creating a nonprofit clinic that would meet that need. And I feel extremely fortunate that we can be part of that conversation. Dr. Birdwell is our medical director. If you haven't met her, she's amazing. And she has figured out a flow in our clinic where they can share space with the vet that will work for BOOP, which stands for Better Outcomes for Owners and Pets. Is that right? They've figured out the flow where it won't be interruptive to our process and we can meet the need for the community, and it's not going to cost the taxpayers anything because BOOP will lease from the county. They will reimburse us for any white goods or any expenses that they incur through using our white good products, and they will keep their own drugs and medical separate. They'll have their own DEA license, their own malpractice insurance. So there really won't be any operational expense to the county other than, you know, if there's a little bit of extra electricity or something used, but it should be negligible. And it's going to be a good thing for our citizens.
We have a question. Do we have other services like this presently?
I wish the mayor had stayed because I believe he told me, and I could be incorrect, but I think he said that there's about 30 nonprofits operating in the county that are meeting needs for the community rather than the county having to do that. Are you talking about that, or
No,
are you
I'm
asking?
just talking about animal control.
There, to my knowledge, there is not another nonprofit vet clinic in this county, and in fact, Dr. Preston and Dr. Birdwell and Dr. Moser, who works with Dr. Preston, they went out and visited a lot of vet clinics in the community, talked to them about, whether or not this is something that would be accepted. So the model that and they're here, you can ask them questions if you have questions, but the model that they are operating under is we will accept referrals from local vets regardless of the family's income, or we will accept people who are lower income, fixed income, who don't have the ability to pay full price vets. So I told the story in budget committee earlier this week, so some of you may hear this again, but a really good example of a case, we had a gentleman, elderly gentleman, came to the shelter sobbing in the lobby, wanted to give us his Chihuahua. She had gone for her regular annual visit at the vet. They found a mammary tumor, and he could not afford the biopsy to see what needed to be done for the dog. So in order to save her life, he was willing to give her to us. Through the course of that conversation, discovered that his wife had passed last year, and basically this was his only company. This was his, love of his life, but he loved the dog enough to want her to live. So through the grant, luckily we had the grant, and we were able to offer the biopsy. The grant reimbursed us for that expense. Turned out not to be cancer. We removed the mass, and he kept his dog. And we didn't have to do, if we had taken her, we would have done all of that anyway, and then given the dog to someone else, and who would that serve? So, this is gonna be a really good thing for our community.
Any other questions or comments? No. Seeing none, all those in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Show it unanimous. Okay, thank you. Resolution authorizing the Resolution 2, 2017, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a license agreement with Beaman Toyota to grant naming rights concerning the county's Navico LED aquatic video timing board. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
I can't exactly speak to this, but I know they have this board at the indoor sports in Brentwood, and it was gifted to the parks. And what Beaman's asking to do is to put their name onto it, so it's a form of advertisement for them as the events are occurring.
Did they paid for this? Probably Beaman did?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
It happens in gyms and places like that everywhere. Are there any other questions with this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Show it unanimous. And Resolution 2, 2018, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to grant an easement to Middle Tennessee Electric for the provision of electric services for the expansion of Columbian Avenue with attachment.
So moved.
Second, okay.
Mr. Chair, basically, this is the expansion of Columbia Avenue, where our TMA garage is currently at, we're leasing with them. They're expanding the road, and there's 2 poles on our property that have to be reset, realigned in order to support the expansion.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Show that one unanimous. So that's basically the resolutions we have, and now Jesse, I guess we give you a few minutes. I'm sorry about that, we got another meeting happening at 5:30.
I understand, and maybe the charge for me tonight is to tee it up for Monday's meeting for some discussion. I appreciate everybody's time. I see how busy you are. I didn't know I was going to be getting emotional hearing stories about pets and communities, but tip of the cap. In short, a level set and then a summary for what I've brought to you today. When we first met in the fourth quarter of last year, I think it's fair to say there were questions from the commission wanting to understand why the commission didn't have more of a line of sight into the RFP process. Could they get one? Could they get more involved? Could they give direction? And could they get updates on the process? From there, I engaged with counsel for the hospital and with Kaufman Hall. We've been meeting regularly. The request I gave to them was that the commission, the county, deserves to know what the criteria are that are being used to evaluate suitors. They would like an opportunity to recommend their own criteria for evaluating those suitors. They would like the opportunity to set forth some of their priorities in terms of what a potential transaction would address, what their priorities are, what their constituents are saying, and then third, the community covenants and commitments, which are the heart of any kind of transaction in my mind. needs to start and end in a lot of ways with this body. And I'm glad to say at this point that their response was, we understand, we appreciate the request, we respect the request, and we agree. And as of today, they have provided us with the criteria that has been used to date. They have asked if we had any additional criteria to apply. They have asked what are some so-called big ticket items that the potential partners should know about from the county's perspective, that this body is hearing from their neighbors and their constituents, and they want to hear that from us. And then third, they do want to hear about community covenants and commitments. And as a reflection of that, they have paused the internal process at the RFP. They have not winnowed the field at all. They have not sent any additional direction in what's called letter 2 until the direction that we've asked to give is delivered to them. And I think that's very positive. I've done other transactions in other parts of the state and the country where the county and the hospital got at loggerheads to such a degree that it impacted the ability to maximize the value of the community asset. So I'm taking up some of my time, but I want to say it's positive. It's going in the right direction. The county has an opportunity to weigh in at earlier stages than it did on substance that it didn't have before, and I'm very pleased to report that. And so at Monday's commission meeting, if that is a topic, I plan to relay the same. So with that, I'll pivot to what I prepared for us today. There were two, I'd say, categories. One is thank you for the engagement. I received a number of requests for information, for research, for analysis, for my perspectives, and we put together the packet that we sent today that gives responses to what we believe were the questions that were posed to us. And so I'm glad to tick through those. We only have a few minutes, or I can answer questions, whatever you prefer. The first two items on that relate to the community covenants and commitments, as well as the criteria that are being used to potentially evaluate partners. Now, I think it's fitting that they're first. We have spent a lot of time talking about the large scale dollars that are involved with the transaction. We've talked about professionals and professional fees. We haven't talked a ton about, to me, the biggest issue that is tackled in a community when one of these transactions is considered is how this transaction goes and proceeds, if there is one. It impacts healthcare and access to that healthcare for generations of people. And how is that healthcare going to be structured? Where is it going to be located? What's the name on that building? What specialists are going to remain in this community? Which ones are not? Those are ones that I believe at this stage in the process are ripe for the commission to consider, to weigh in on, to lead, to give direction to the hospital. And from my perspective, I'll be optimistic. The hospital seems receptive and ready for that leadership. And so with that, talking about the community covenants and commitments, what other communities have done to tackle those issues, and some of the criteria that you're hearing from your constituents, your neighbors, that you want to see applied through that process, is what I think is now on the table and ready to be received. So with that, I'll pause. I don't know if you had much of a chance to review the packet. I can answer some questions, or we can go through some of these factors that I've seen on other transactions and get your reaction to them.
So one of the things I've heard that several commissioners have reached out about wanting to make sure that Williamson Health continues to maintain a good partnership with our jail in servicing our prisoners, whether that's through an on-site clinic, off-site clinic, mobile clinic. And I know in here under community covenant it says prisoner care services, but it's very vague. So I don't know the process at some point, how we really kind of drill that down to, what does that mean? It's easy to say, well, they'll maintain prisoner health care services. But right now they do it as a discount, So I think we need to add a little more meat to those bones and kind of structure how exactly we want them to continue to maintain prison care services. The other thing I would add, and I don't know if it makes more sense for us to email you these or talk about them, but in my line of work, I really want there to be a SANE nurse on every shift, or at least on call. The number of sexual assault cases that we get are, they come at all types of days and nights, and I can't tell you the difference it makes between having a SANE nurse in the ER and a non-SANE nurse. And for those of you that don't know, that's a sexual assault nurse who is carefully trained in how to deal with individuals who have gone through a sexual assault. And so I know the hospital over the years has worked really hard. We didn't have a SANE nurse for years. And Williamson Health over the last, I'd say 5 years, has done a tremendous job of getting SANE nurses trained and on staff. And so I want to see that continue. That's my 2 cents for our 2 minutes that we have.
I'm glad to comment on those. On the prisoner care, I have a couple of ideas. First, what I understand to be the current status quo is that charges are 30%. 30% of charges is what's paid. What I've found is that at this stage of the process, we direct Kaufman Hall and Bassberry and Sims to include in the next communication to any potential partner that that prisoner care that has been performed up to date, we want it maintained or enhanced as part of any transaction. It's important to this community, and as council, we can work through the logistics through a binding contract. And I've done that process. You know, you're wise to bring it up now. Frankly, I've been on transactions where at the very end it's kind of thrown in and haphazardly tried to batch up, and we'll tell them next week, this is a priority, this is important. EMS, this is how it has worked, this is what has been done, this is why it's been so important to our community. We're not married to a particular contractual provision, but it's got to be solved, and it's important to the commission that it be solved. And so if we telegraph, I think, to them that this is a priority, they can take that into account when they're refining their proposals. And I think now's the right time to do it, and then we'll figure out the logistics and what we'll hold them to in a contract.
Commissioner?
Comment and a question. I can just tell you from being on the hospital board, those are the same questions that are being asked. I think very much in alignment there. I think for this body to consider when that point in time comes, every additional community-oriented service that we obligate the purchaser to do drives the price down, right? And if we do it in a way to where, in my concept, you would almost itemize those elements to it and go, okay, if you did it and committed to it contractually, what's the price? But if we remove that obligation from you guys, what's the price, right? And then I think that comes back to us as a decision point at some point. That's where the foundation potentially comes into play, to where you could seed that foundation with some of the proceeds that go into it and say, you're going to be responsible for maintaining EMS, prisoner care, like those types of community-oriented services. I think that's a decision the county commission is going to have to decide later down the road. but no, those same things are being considered from the hospital board, and they're looking for the bidders to provide answers on those community-oriented services. Question now. From a process perspective, what is the most efficient way to solicit input from the commissioners, right? And then also pair through those submissions to ensure that we're all in agreement that those actually want to be included, you know, in a formal request to the board to include in the RFP. Because, I mean, everybody's got ideas. We can throw them all on the board and say they're all required, but that may not be the most collaborative, efficient way to do it. I mean, is there ideas from a process perspective on the best way to solicit and collect the input, and then also kind of pare it down to like, what are the things we really care about?
Sure, and I think I appreciate the question. I appreciate the observation. I agree as a general principle. When you're selling something and you're retaining rights to it, the price doesn't go up, it goes the other direction. So I think that's fair, and it's a balance that the county commission will just have to consider after hearing from the constituents, and so I think that's exactly right. In terms of refining and collecting and advocating for the most important covenants and commitments, if I do say so myself, I think delegating some discretion to your council, communicating with me about the priorities that you see and you envision, and I can tell you and give you feedback real time or do research via email or meeting or coffee and say that's wildly out of market. That's not customary, and it will hurt the ability to maintain this and that. And so understanding the client, what I typically do is the client tells me, these are the things that are my priorities, and we can do them in a public meeting. That's the nature of it. And then I put together the ones that, and craft them and structure them and use language that I see is consistent, that captures the spirit of what you're asking for. And then I would go to work with counsel for Bassberry and Sims to negotiate and memorialize those. And then before they were, set in stone, if you will, on a transaction document, they would be reviewed with the body. And so I think that's.
So I guess a question is like, do we put a time frame on it saying, look, submit all of your questions and ideas in? Right?
That would be ideal.
And then maybe bring the comprehensive list back through the committee, right? For us to determine like, this is the list that we want to bring forward to the county commission at that point. I mean, would that be more of a formal process to do it?
Well,
We did do
last
that.
meeting, we did ask commissioners to send to Carolyn the questions for covenants and things like that. And Jennifer and I received one from a commissioner today at 12:35.
I have received none.
Yeah, so, but we did ask and put that out to go through her, and then she would compile them all for efficiency for all of us.
Do we have a time frame on when we cut that off so that we can keep, because we're actively in RFPs right now, right?
Right, exactly.
So we're gonna want to compile that.
That was the meeting that we rescheduled was January the 28th. That was the cutoff. So we would have everything ready for Jesse.
And just a side note, and I brought this up in our last meeting, there are things we're doing in this committee, and we decided to make it hopefully more efficient, where Jesse would come to this committee and report, so he's not communicating with each individual commissioner. But I don't know if that message has really been understood by the commission, because we're still getting a lot of individual stuff. It's not flowing through this committee, and then we're spending a lot of time at the big monthly meeting going through issues that we've already talked about at this meeting. So I appreciate your question. It's what we've kind of tried to structure to make it most efficient, but it's either falling on deaf ears or people still want their time to shine in front of the community and answer their questions. I'm not really sure, but the process we put in place has not been effectively utilized. I'll put it that way.
Well, in the packet that we circulated today, I'll treat that as a question. They are covenants and commitments that I would say are customary, and they're not academic. They're based on me and my colleagues and their connection with the hospital and the community and the history of Williamson Health and Williamson County. It was our best kind of first pass at, this is what I'd ask for. This is what I'm hearing people ask about. This is what others have done in other communities to tackle that issue. And so it's not just Googled and reported, I promise. We did our best to apply what we've seen and is traditional in one of these transactions and apply it to Williamson Health, and Williamson County. So this might be a good starting point for that kind of research.
I just got a question for you, Jesse. On the services and the service lines, have you done an assessment of what those contracts are with the individual providers to understand where we may have risk in a sale? Meaning, I know that there are providers that have basically get out of jail clauses that if there's a sale that they can leave and take their services elsewhere.
We have not received those contracts yet through the diligence process.
Okay.
I do think it's important that we get that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, thank you.
So does it make sense to try round two, now that we have somewhat of a starting point with what you prepared, again, for commissioners who, this was emailed to all the commissioners, to have this, again, review it, submit to Carolyn any additions, and then at our next meeting, we discuss it, and that's the deadline, because at a certain point, we've got to say, this is what we've got, and then we can discuss it, finalize it at our March County Commission meeting, and turn it over.
I would concur with that.
From my perspective, I talked to Kaufman Hall and Bassberry and Sims today, and I appreciated that they told me, they said they are holding the next communication for participants pending guidance and direction from this body. The ball is in our court.
How does, Chair, how do you feel about that?
That's fine.
Plan?
Yeah.
2.0.
And if I do get anything, like Drew sent me something and I passed it on to Jesse, and what I got today from a fellow commissioner, I just emailed it to you. I got it at 12:35. But yeah, we can ask all the commissioners after they see this, any other things they'd like to add to the covenant or any questions, please get them to Carolyn so she can compile them and we can forward them to Jesse. When do we want it at the regular March meeting or the one that we're now go have?
I think it should be for our next meeting as a
Okay.
property committee, and that way, when we go to meet in March,
So that would be February 25th, committee. Would be the next property meeting.
You need how much time, and you need how much time?
I just need 48 hours to post it on the website and to make sure my commissioners are happy.
As far as compiling, yes, ma'am, okay.
Yep.
Just like you said.
Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am, and you need time to research or whatever.
I do. I'll have immediate reactions to 99% of them, and so I'll be able to give recommendations on them. I will say that if we don't have any direction at all for Coffin Hall and the hospital next week, they're going to communicate the next phase of the process and just put a placeholder that says to be determined from the county. And so we don't have to have an exhaustive list, but if I may suggest, perhaps a deliverable for Monday is we come up with 3 things that we signal to potential partners that as a community, more to come, it'll be a rolling submission, but these are factors that we will consider when deciding whether to move forward with the transaction. And I think that would be a great start.
So would it make sense then to have the suggestions sent to Caroline by close of business February 20th? That's the end of the day on Friday. And then by the time we meet on the 25th, everybody's had a chance to look at them. We can kind of hopefully streamline them into a final and then present it to the board as an entirety at our March, 9th committee meeting. Okay.
Okay,
Makes sense.
thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I'm late, this might have been covered, but I just wanted to mention one thing I noticed in here. You put about the children's hospital in here, that we should maintain that. I don't believe we should, I don't know if that's one of them that we would come to a conclusion that we want to put in there, but I don't think we should burden another administrator that comes in with the requirement to run a children's hospital, because that hospital is a money losing operation. It has been from the start. We have average 8 patients a month in that. I mean, that's like 2 a week. So we're practically out of business. And the reason is because you're too close to Vanderbilt. So if your child is really sick, where are you gonna go? You're not gonna go there, and that's what's happening. Everybody wants to be at Vanderbilt because that's where you have all the specialists in case you need them. So I don't know if that's, again, I don't know if that's one that we would conclude that we want to, put in there, but I would say we don't need to burden another administrator with the children's hospital. That could be, unless they could beef it up and add some specialties. It's a money losing operation. We're too close to Vanderbilt. There's times when you have to say, there's another provider who can do a better job than we can, let them do it, and we do something else. So that's, I don't know if that's been mentioned at all, but I'm sorry, I was late.
Yes.
And look, I'll respectfully just disagree. Lots of conversations on it. So one of the things that I will agree with you in that we don't want to present it in a way to where you require it, but you certainly want a proposal to include that proposition of maintaining the children's hospital. The biggest issue, because we're strategically part of Vanderbilt, it's around specialties, right? And Vanderbilt has purposely not provided us the specialties to keep the population census there that you're typically looking for. Obviously, as we're entertaining RFPs coming in and the proposals, if we're gonna partner with another system out there, one of the expectations is that they're gonna place the specialties there to then drive up. So that way parents don't have to go to Nashville for children's hospital services, and they can stay here, you know, in an effort to provide the community health services that we really want in this community. So that's my response to that. But I do agree, you wouldn't require it per se, but you would definitely want it included in the proposal and what their submission would look like for that.
Okay, before he got here, we sort of said he was presenting things because he only had 15 minutes.
Okay.
And we're going to ask questions and debate these things on Monday night.
Okay.
Because we're supposed to have a meeting at 5:30 with 2 committees. That may take another. So.
Adjourn this committee and we'll start.
Property committee, okay, to adjourn. Do I hear a motion to adjourn property?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor? Favor to adjourn? Aye. Okay. Now.